Good morning.
Good morning.
For those of you who may not know me, my name is Ellen Greenwood. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. And as worship associate this morning, it is my privilege to welcome you here to our indoor, in-person worship service, as well as to our service on YouTube. Please know that each one of you, whether you are here in person, whether you are watching on YouTube right now as we are presenting our service, or whether you watch on YouTube at some later time, each one of you is welcome here with us, and all of who you are is welcome. If you are here in person today, please stay after the service for our coffee hour. Especially if you are visiting, we think this will give us a little bit of a time to start to get to know you. I need to mention that here at Westside, we are very fortunate in having a wonderful minister, the Reverend Carol Baudot. Don't roll your eyes. And Reverend Carol is presently taking a few weeks of sabbatical. It would be hard for you to think that if you saw her schedule, but she is. And so she is sabbatically here with us today. So if you haven't had a chance to meet her, or if you just want to say hi, she'll be around, I think, a little bit after the service today, and we're very happy to have her. She gets to hear what some of us think today. And she's a very brave minister because she just gives her pulpit to us on a regular basis. We do have a few announcements today, as usual. These are in your order of service, and if you are watching on YouTube, I think you will see these on your screen. As I said, we will be having coffee and conversation after the service today. The Earth Church of East Tennessee meets here today at 3 p.m., and I think that it will be a gorgeous day for an Earth Church meeting today. This Saturday, February 25th at 3 p.m., Westside will be hosting a celebration of life for Joe Barnhart, who was a beloved member of this community for many years. And we'll celebrate him this Saturday. And if you could help with food for that service, for the reception afterward, please contact Reverend Carol, Ann Harvey, or Elizabeth Corbett. It would be greatly appreciated. Bridging the Gap is our current justice and generosity project, where we donate new and good used clothing to people who are just leaving the justice system. And there's a list here of things that are needed. Please give generously if you can to that. And there is something in the order of service about a dinner at my house this Saturday night. That dinner is full to capacity, so we'll just skip that one. Some of us have wondered how we could contribute to try to make a difference in Turkey or Syria as a result of the devastating earthquakes there. There are many different worthwhile ways to contribute. I like to look at what the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee recommends, and there are a couple of organizations listed here in your order of service, and I believe these are also up on the YouTube screen. Those are good ways to make contributions. The book club meets this Saturday. We have been reading a book that is one of my favorites, Anxious People. We're all anxious people at some time or another. But if you'd like to join us for the discussion, even if you haven't read the book, we would love to have you. We do this via Zoom. As usual, for quite a few years now, Charlie Dudney and his dedicated volunteers are doing the volunteer income tax assistance program here at the church. This is a wonderful way for those of us who are 65 and older and people of lower income to have help with their taxes, and keep that in mind. And April 29th, from 3 to 5 p.m., we will be hosting a death cafe. I'll let you read about that here. It's a difficult topic to talk about, and we kind of put off doing this kind of thing, but I think it's wonderful that for those of us who would like to have a discussion about death and dying, there will be a chance to do it at the end of April. And then anytime you want to know what's going on at Westside, look at our Wednesday newsletter. That's the guideline for what's happening at Westside. And you can find information there, Zoom links for our RE offerings. We have a couple of different things going on right now, and just lots of other information about Westside. Are there any other announcements? Very good. At this time, Sandra Thomas will bring us into the beginning of our worship time together with a musical prelude. Thank you so much, Sandra, for that beautiful music. If the windmills of your mind are still spinning a little too rapidly this morning, if you need a little bit more centering and focus as we come together, maybe the singing of our Tibetan singing bowl will help with that. It calls us to center ourselves and to focus on being together in community while we are here this morning. Judy Winchester is going to light our chalice and also our community candles for us this morning. For our chalice lighting, I found these words from David Breeden. These were on the UUA's Worship website, and I thought these were particularly appropriate for this service. We light this chalice remembering and honoring our own tradition and celebrating the rich diversity of traditions among us. As we search for justice, meaning, and purpose, may we remember that justice, meaning, and purpose live first in deeply listening to one another. And we do have two other candles that we light up here frequently in response to what's going on in the world outside this building. Actually, this morning, I would like to light each of these candles, each one in honor of a different person. I'd like to light one for our own Joe Barnhart, whose life we will be celebrating this Saturday. And I would like to light the other one for Jimmy Carter and his life and work, and for his family as they face his going into hospice care. And now we will all sing number 18, What Wondrous Love. Please rise as you are willing and able. And if the choir would come on up, I think that's
Is this, oh my soul?
Well, for several weeks now, our worship has explored the meaning of love, particularly love as justice and service, in response, at least in part, to me forgetting about the offering. Before we start the service, let's take an offering. One way of expressing love and working for justice is to give generously for the support of the work that this congregation does. And this quarter, our Share the Plate partner is the Bottom. There's a little bit in your order of service about the Bottom, which is a wonderful organization here in Knoxville. And next Sunday, we will have speakers from the Bottom to come and explain about the work that they do and how we can be in partnership with them. Well, at the risk of repeating myself, for several weeks, our worship has explored the meaning of love as justice and service. And this has been, at least in part, to the Unitarian Universalist Association's proposed adoption of a statement of purpose that includes the following: we will transform the world with our liberating love. Today, we're going to hear from 3 individuals in our congregation as they share what this statement means to them and what it might mean to Westside. And the first speaker is going to be Barry Schumpert.
Hi, I'm Barry Schumpert, and my pronouns are he and him. I have to admit that I had a hard time coming up with something to say this morning, and I sure didn't think I could live up to the high standards set by Judy and Linda and Chris last week with the inspiring things they had to say. And I even briefly considered going to the ChatGPT site that students are now using to write their term papers, but that didn't really seem to sit very well with the theme of love as service. There seemed to be a disconnect. So when I finally couldn't procrastinate any longer, I decided to talk about one aspect of this theme of love as service that is a bit troubling for me. Under the UUA's proposed purposes and covenant, love is seen as the fundamental and central value that inspires and empowers us to pursue the other values of pluralism, interdependence, equity, generosity, evolution, and justice. It's this last one, justice, that I want to focus on. For me, the pursuit of justice, particularly social justice, has always been an important spiritual goal. In fact, it has a lot to do with leading me to UUism and to Westside. I joined this church in 1996, about 6 months before we moved into this building. And once we got settled into our new home here, a few Westsiders got together and decided to form a social action committee. And for years, this small committee identified groups in the community who needed help and then enlisted the congregation to join in supporting them. Westsiders very generously provided supplies for unwed mothers, filled backpacks with school supplies for disadvantaged students, and engaged in a number of other projects, similar projects. And as in the announcements is made to attacks from people in the community who were very much opposed to these stands. And this fear indeed did come to pass a couple of years later when a gunman walked into Tennessee Valley Church and killed 2 people on one Sunday morning. He was motivated partly by the church's public commitment to LGBTQ plus rights. The UUA's proposed new purposes and covenant would replace the 7 UU principles that most of us are very familiar with. Regarding the issue of justice, the proposal says in part, we covenant to dismantle racism and all forms of oppression within individuals and our institutions. We are accountable to each other for this work. If the purposes and covenant are passed at the upcoming General Assembly, I believe that we at Westside will have to carefully reconsider how we approach social justice. We've always strongly supported individuals in the congregation as they try to work to right social wrongs, but we've been reluctant to address these issues as an institution. Will that approach satisfy the proposed new covenant? It seems to me that in deciding whether to take congregational stands on equity issues facing our society, we will need to carefully examine several questions. First, what is the proper relationship between individual responsibility and congregational responsibility when it comes to issues that are often politically charged? Under our old seven principles, we affirm both a free and responsible search for truth and meaning for individuals and the use of the democratic process in our congregation. While these clauses are not part of the UUA's proposed replacement, might they give us a basis for balancing individual and congregational responsibilities? Maybe individuals have a free voice to express their opinions and their concerns and their reservations, but the congregation as a whole uses a democratic process to decide what to do. It's one possibility. Second, how much are we willing to risk exposing our church to possible threats by taking stands that may be quite unpopular with the people in the larger community? Our rainbow signs were recently vandalized yet again, and several years ago, someone smeared a highly undesirable substance on our front door. Will we experience more strongly antagonistic actions if we were more visible in support of social justice? How do we feel about that, and how will we deal with it? By the way, the Board of Trustees seems to be looking at this question already through the recent questionnaire they submitted to the congregation. Next, how would we decide what issues to address? There are many, many wrongs that need righting in our society. Our small congregation can't possibly address all of them, so how would we choose? And finally, how willing are we to make ourselves uncomfortable? Addressing social inequities involves educating ourselves about how they came to be and how they continue to underpin our lives. This can force us to reevaluate our own histories and how we came to have our privileged positions. Those who joined us in reading An Indigenous People's History of the United States know what I'm talking about, I think. It's uncomfortable to confront the fact that the land we're sitting on this morning, as well as the sites of all of our homes, were violently wrested from the people who came before us. Similarly, our recent efforts to educate ourselves about current gender and sexual identity issues have exposed many of us to the discomfort of stretching our minds to accommodate ways of being that we had never even thought about before. The UUA's proposed purposes and covenant call on us to transform the world by our liberating love. Like our 7 principles, this is a lofty-sounding platitude until you try to put it into practice. That part, implementation, I think, will require us to reevaluate how our small congregation exists in the world and how we can help with its transformation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Barry. I think you brought up some points that just really are extremely pertinent to why we are having these discussions and why we are all thinking about these things right now. And we will continue, and our next speaker will be Mike Chapin.
Can everybody hear me? Okay, great. I'm going to take Barry, that was tough to follow. I really think that we're going to talk about similar things, and I want to start by introducing myself because I don't think many people know me. My name is Mike Chapin. I'm also known as John Chapin. I'm a John Michael. So I am a U.S. Navy veteran, Vietnam era. And I love my country, so I'm talking about all kinds of things. But I'm having trouble with the UU statement, not from its purpose or anything, but trying to gather it all together because it's been a long time since we've been in the UU church. We're members, 15-year members up in Kingsport. We moved to Knoxville back in 1990, and we sort of were looking around for churches. And I must say, we did not look at the Westside. So we should have been here a long time ago. But I wanted to first talk about love, because this word love is really something that has got a lot of uses. As a fellow golfer, I could say, I love golf, but golf doesn't love me. At least I try. But, you know, it's something that I've got to give you a little more background on me. There's 3 women in my life now of 80 years here, come up in April, that I owe an awful lot to. My development first was my birth mother. I met her a long time ago, but she had the strength, and she probably could have been a UU. I don't know what her religious background was, but she had the strength in 1943 to choose giving me up for adoption or the alternative, and she chose me, and I'm very thankful and very loving of her for doing that, because I've had a hell of a life. Second is my adoptive mother, who put up with me, particularly during my formative years. But she did teach me something about loving my country, and also about the fact that there are right ways and wrong ways, that decisions have consequences. And the third is, I don't know how I ever came up with this lady. For 55 years, she just showed up, and she must have chased me because I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready. But anyway, that's a little bit about me. But I too, Barry, had a little trouble with not trouble, but trying to figure out the quote, "We will transform the world by our liberating love." Because love, to a lot of people, there's a lot of people that have different agendas because of love, and I won't question them. I honor them. I honor their decisions. But I do have one particular thing that's particularly bothering me here, having been a military man. About 2.5 years ago, we had a lot of laws. And since we are a law-abiding citizenship and we're a law-abiding country, things do have consequences and actions. But just recently, and to get into the political thing here, People are getting away with murder, all kinds of injustices. They go before a magistrate, no bail, no accountability. They're back on the street. They do different things. Again, and with that, we change. And one of the biggest laws that I think is being broken right now, is what I'm going to say is not for the lack of love, but we're getting really just cremated at the border, the southern border, by a group of people. A lot are very good people and very meaningful people, and they're from running away from a lot of situations. And there is a right way of doing it. My adoptive grandparents were immigrants from old Austria, now Yugoslavia. He was a tailor. It took him forever to become a citizen of the United States, but he did it the right way. And there are a lot of people that do report into the stations where they're supposed to register and supposed to go ahead and get their court date. And then our government has shooed them away. And these are the people we know about. They're the gotaways. One thing in my background that I didn't say, I'm a pharmacist, so I've dealt with drugs, legitimate drugs. But we're causing a situation here for a lot of love to take people who, for various reasons, and a lot of them are legitimate, and bringing them into this country and then dispersing them in our country and causing our citizens to go have undue hardships. I'm just thinking of on the news in Yuma, Arizona. The hospital there is very close to closing because they're at the money end of supplying medical care, not for their citizens of Yuma, but for the people that have been shipped to them across the border. And that's sort of sad, because all that money and all the entitlements that a lot of these people are getting, the housing, the cell phones, the food, the lodging, New York City, they had they weren't even citizens. They were out protesting their lodging. They didn't want to stay in that hotel anymore. And the hotel was getting tired of them destroying their rooms. So anyway, there are a lot of things, back to our love here. There are a lot of reasons to help these people that are trying to get to our country, which is a great country. But we're going under because we all are paying for this. And I don't see anything in the future but paying more taxes, because there are a lot of these people that we don't know anything about. I was sorry to hear that over 140 countries are involved now with people coming into our country, and they're usually the gotaways. We don't know if they're gang people, the MS-13s. We don't know if they're, I haven't even mentioned the fentanyl, but are killing our people. So I'm having a little trouble with us, with it looks like a huge statement, and they have to do it. The UUA has to make that statement, and it's a very worthwhile statement. But I think we have to all look back and put it all together and sort of say what's real and what isn't real. But strive ahead, because we're in changing times. Never in my 80 years has this country been more divided. And I'm not saying what side's the best. I'm just saying we've been more divided, whether it be race, sexual gender. We're just divided, and there's no uniformity. Now we're learning about censorship. People that want to say something aren't getting heard because of whatever. But anyway, that's sort of where I am. I think love is very important, and I think the three things you have to do, looking at these people coming in and the money's being spent, we have to take care of our citizens first, because they're our citizens, and we're the ones paying the taxes. We have to take care of, there's so much money could be spent on mental health to help in the case of the situation at the UU Church downtown. This is somebody that needs some help, that pulled it. And we're taking away monies to help our people, our citizens, which make up our country, which make it so good. So that's, in a nutshell, I just want to leave you with the fact that love your country, love your fellow citizens, and love your family, because they're the most important thing that you have. and then do the other things. And I really commend the UUA for doing all their changes, because it is a changing world. My gosh, it's a changing world. We've got more troubles and more people that are hurting in this world than ever before, but we really do have to take care of the United States citizen first. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike, for sharing your thoughts with us. The Chapins are relatively new to our congregation, and it's really nice to have a chance to hear from Mike and begin to get to know them a little better. Our next speaker will be Mary Frances Milligan.
Hello, I'm Mary Frances Milligan, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers, and the clock is gone, so I'm going to try to keep it brief. I just noticed that. All right. So I'm going to start off with asking who here is familiar with the book, the concept, the multimedia marketing mogul thing that is The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman? Okay. And so we have a few people. And so it's, we'll say, theory, school of thought, that each person has a primary way that they feel loved and connected with somebody. It's broken down into 5 categories: physical touch, words of positive affirmation, gift giving, quality time, and acts of service. I am personally a words of positive affirmation person. So you can give me like a very expensive designer handbag. I'll be like, oh, that's sweet. But I like to be wooed. You tell me all the wonderful things about me, and I will feel so special. That's just me. Yeah, I'm yours. I'm putty. My soul's connected to you. But however, it's not enough to know about your own love language. So you need to know about the love language of the people around you and how to speak it. So I'm words of positive affirmation person. I like to go off and have adventures, if you will. And my husband is a homebody, and he doesn't like to go out so much, and that's fine. I was like, let me go off for 2 weeks, and you just call me every day and tell me how wonderful I am, and I'm going to just be happy as can be. However, I had to think about this, and I realized my husband is a quality time person. So he was not a words of positive affirmation person. So I had to reprioritize my life a little bit and how I spent my time, recalibrate it, and really put in, I call them couch hours, but really, spend time with him, even if it's just watching TV, and letting him know that I love him, and spending time with him is how he wants to be connected with me, and I will do that, and it's a priority for me. By the way, my husband still thinks I'm crazy because he knows that's not how I operate, but I do it for him. And so while the 5 love languages is primarily marketed as a couples tool, they now sell 5 love languages for children and all sorts of things. But I want to think about, what do we do if we take this larger? How do we apply this to our community? How does our community need love? When I grew up, I listened to Raffi when I was a little kid, and he had songs saying he wished he could give the world a hug. Well, I think that it would be awesome if we could, but if someone can figure out the logistics of it, let me know. That's not happening yet. So that rules out physical touch. Go back to how I am, words of positive affirmation. Well, guess what? A lot of people really take that as just empty, meaningless platitudes. It doesn't really go so far when it goes to helping our community. So the more I've thought about it, acts of service is it. That's how we show our community love. Service is love in action. So I thought about this a lot during the onset of the COVID pandemic. Since we're talking about windmills of the mind, one of my favorite movies is actually the Thomas Crown Affair. And there's a quote, I'm going to kind of paraphrase a little bit, but one of the benefits of being rich is you get to wake up every day and decide, who do I want to be? Well, I'm not rich. Spoiler alert. But when the COVID pandemic happened, we were told to shelter in place. I lost my hour commute I lost the 3 to 4 hours a day after my job and commute, shuttling my kids around to their different activities. They're all hiding their faces. Hi, kids. And for the first time in my life, I had, well, I'll say adult life, I had what I felt was margin. And I could really think about, who's this person that I want to be? I thought about, I've always dreamed, when my kids are grown and I'm an empty nester, I'm going to do all this stuff. It's going to be great. And then I was like, I have the time now. And one of the things I really, really considered was I wanted to be someone who was really active in my community and did a lot of volunteer work. And I realized now's the time. Our community was hurting. I was really lucky with COVID. I mean, I had it. It was terrible. I don't recommend it. But we were told to shelter in place for several months. I am able to work from home. I didn't lose any income at all. Since I was able to stay at home, I was able to keep my 3 kids at home, and they did online virtual school. My husband doesn't work. I got to stay in my house all day with my 4 favorite people, my 2 favorite dogs, and I could even take my computer and work on my porch in the sunlight. I'm going to be honest, other than just the fear of multiple people being ill, I mean, it was actually not a horrible time for me. And I don't mean to sound glib about that. I don't. But this is my personal experience, and I was lucky. But I saw so many people weren't. So many people were hurting. And so I woke up and decided I was going to be that person who helped. I was going to put my love into action and perform service. It started with probably my biggest vice other than Diet Coke, which is spending way too much time on social media. I had to limit myself now on my phone, so I don't do it as much. But I was scrolling through the old Facebook, and I saw a post from some different people I followed through a hiking group say that, they were really sick of all the trash in our national park. And they were organizing a cleanup to do something about it. Like a lot of people, when the pandemic happened, I started and pivoted to spending a lot of my time outdoors because it was one of the safe activities we could do. And I've been out almost every weekend enjoying our state parks. And it's like, well, this is the time for me to give back and take care. Because community also includes our physical community, the environment. That's part of who we are. And so it was in January, and it was very cold. It was, in the 20s. And I signed up, me and my kids, and we bundled up and got little pickers, and we went down the road to the Tremont Institute picking up trash. And a lot of people think this is punishment. My kids were awesome. They were out there, and we had our little COVID mask on and bundled up, and at one point people were putting weird things on their feet because it was so cold. But they were making a game of it, seeing who could pick up the most beer bottles and cigarette butts. And it really warmed my heart. And we got to the trailhead of the West Prong Trail, which is across the road from the Tremont Institute. And I saw this guy, and he saw me and my kids. And he had small children, I'd say maybe 4 or 5, ages 4 and 5, not 4 or 5 kids. And he said in a very loud stage whisper, "Kids, you better follow the rules. Those are juvenile delinquents," pointed at my kids. "And if you don't behave, you're going to have to pick up trash like them." Okay, well, I'm wearing one of my Mama Bear shirts here. You can say stuff about me, it won't bother me, but just like I think a lot of people, if you say something about your kid, that kicks into protective mode here. So I went up to him and I said, "Excuse me, those are my kids, and we're volunteers, and I'm teaching them to have a servant's heart. I'm teaching them to take care of our earth and our community, and I am proud of them. So no, they're not delinquents. They're leaders." And he packed up his granola bars and went home. He didn't have much to say about that. But when I said that I spoke it into truth. That became kind of like my mission statement. We are leaders. We take care of each other. We take care of our earth. And I'm proud of anyone who puts themselves out to do so. And yeah, you guys are awesome. Just stop hiding your face. You guys are great. So I now actively volunteer with half a dozen different organizations. The world is no longer standing still, though. I'm going to admit it's hard, but it's a priority for me. So I go out there and I take days off from work and help out with different things. I spend several days of my weekends volunteering. I also cook meals for people in need once a week in our community. My husband, you remember the quality guy, time guy, sometimes like, why are you fixing other people food when you can fix me food? I was like, look, I fix you food every night, you're fine. But he asked, does it make a difference at all what you do? He's like, the world still goes on, people still vote the way they vote. Does it make a difference? I say, it absolutely does. With every cigarette butt we pick up, with every meal I deliver, that's right, Wind. It makes a difference. And I'll tell you, it is liberating, since we're circling back to the concept of liberating love. When we were there, COVID onset, one of the main things I felt was powerless. I felt like I cannot do anything to make our world better. But by taking just small concrete steps, one lasagna delivered at a time, I'm making the world better. You know what? I feel liberated by that. I feel liberated knowing that I'm doing something to make our world better. And I hope that the people I help feel that way too. But absolutely, services, our community's love language. Thank you. Oh, and if anyone, sorry, I'm always this way, I have to say something else. If anyone wants to help out, we are doing a Save Our Smokies trash cleanup at the Gatlinburg Overlook today after church. So if anyone wants to drive out there, feel free to carpool with me or follow me along. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Mary Frances. And thanks to the three Milligan guys for letting us just embarrass the heck out of you. We love it. That's part of our love language. Remember that. Well, one of the things I love about services like this is we hear from diverse points of view. We hear, the different voices that make up this congregation. And I also think one of the greatest challenges that we face as Unitarian Universalists is finding ways to speak as one voice when we honor so many different ways of being in the world. And I think our closing hymn, which is number 318, We Would Be One, speaks very well to this dilemma that we face. And it also happens to be one of my favorite hymn tunes. So please join me if the choir would come up to the front and stand if you are willing and able as we sing number 318, We Would Be One. As we prepare to leave this place, we will extinguish our chalice in just a few minutes. But remember that we do not extinguish the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we meet again. Go in peace. And a huge thanks again to our speakers today.